I think this opportunity of being able to cover the SEA Games this year in Manila was really an eye-opening experience for me to see the different sports and different athletes, both young and old, get the opportunity to represent Singapore, get to see the Singapore flag fly high when they win the medals, or even if they didn't win, they get the sense of pride of who they're actually representing, who they're playing for, and really show the team spirit and national pride that they have, and give their all for their country.
Some of them I've known for many years, so I've actually seen them making their SEA Games debut four editions ago, and then now actually coming probably towards possibly their last SEA Games. Sometimes they win, sometimes they lose, but you always have this part of you that's an emotional connection with them, that when they lose, you feel hurt as well, because you want to see them do well.
The thing that surprised me is that a lot of the athletes they're just human beings. I mean, when we don't really know them, you see them as this high performing people, sportsmen, sportswomen, that you feel that there's a distance. But when you get up close and personal to covering them, getting to know them, watching them compete, then you realize that these are just ordinary folks, human beings, just like you and me.
What the Games organizers have done this time around is to try and include as many new sports as possible, and that is why you have 56 sports in the Philippines at the SEA Games, and I think they've done a great job to try and expand the interest.
I think the most memorable moment would probably be watching softball, the men's team in softball, win the first gold medal in SEA Games for them. I think we saw a great team spirit, and actually the story behind them of how they actually lost to Philippines earlier in the competition, and then coming back in the final to beat them to win the gold medal. It was a great story, and you see the happiness among them, the team spirit, how they celebrated the win, and the support that they had behind them to actually push them through to the final.
I would have to say it's the first day that we went to squash. The tightness of the squash teams really touched me, because the event that we covered was a team event for both the men's and women's, and then in the men's team there was also a pair of siblings. So the way they supported each other throughout the tournament, these guys felt closer than just teammates. They seemed like family.
I think the example I would like to use is underwater hockey, because it was a major surprise when we actually went over to another province, which was about 2 hours away, and we arrived there just in time, and we managed to watch both the men and the women clinch the gold medals respectively, and we also saw the support. I think the support is a key component when you see family members flying down to the Philippines, staying there for a couple of days, and cheering them on throughout the entire games. When the underwater hockey teams reached Changi Airport, they were also there with the flags, welcoming them back. So to see the team spirit for a new sport, the whole aspect I take away from that is never underestimate a sport, never look down on a new sport, and just go there, have an open mind, respect the athletes, respect the coaches, and now there's a newfound love for underwater hockey.
I think Alex and I were very fortunate to experience, and particularly in some venues where we didn't even expect a crowd, like bowling for example, the partisan support of the Pilipinas.
The home crowd, they really showed everyone what it's like to have the home ground advantage, to have that home support, which is very important for every athlete.
In Singapore, we do get fragments of those moments, not that often though. And it's just something that I really, really hope, and I really, really wish we can just put it in a bottle and bring it back to Singapore even, and hopefully that if we could just plant that seed into the Singapore sporting ecosystem, not just when it comes to national team games, but even in school games, club games, community games, and see it grow from there. I think for the longest time, it's quite a well-known fact that a lot of our athletes or sports, the amount of coverage for local sports has been on the decline. So in our efforts to actually increase the exposure, not just of our national athletes, but also across the sporting ecosystem, we realized would only be possible if we didn't work by ourselves. We had to work with people we knew, with our partners, with the mainstream media as well, so that the entire coverage was as comprehensive as possible for our athletes. That was the main objective, and I felt this was a very, very refreshing experience this time round.
Through this series of coverage and videos that we have produced, I hope that Singaporeans will have a better understanding of what athletes have to go through during a major game, and the sacrifices and the hard work that they have to put in just to be here.
In terms of the hours they put in, the amount of training hours, the injuries, the expectations we have towards our athletes, particularly when they do not perform in the international arena, most of the time is very, very harsh, because usually they are the biggest critics of themselves.
But at the end of the day, they're just a person, with a story to tell.
The stories that we've unfolded on SG Sports TV, we hope you have enjoyed them and have a newfound respect for our athletes.
So regardless of whether they medal or whether they get on the podium, I hope that Singaporeans will understand that every single one of these athletes deserve a lot more credit. That will be the takeaway that I hope Singaporeans can get from what we have shared throughout this entire SEA Games journey.
And here we are your 2019 SEA Games correspondents. We do hope you liked our coverage of the games. We'd like to thank our athletes and everyone who has given us this privilege to make this coverage possible. We do hope you continue to support our athletes. We do have a big year coming up with the Tokyo 2020 Olympics in August next year, so don't forget to roar as one. And to round off this series, we've prepared a special video just for you, which you can watch in the link below. See ya!